What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Educated Barfly. Today we're going to do a home bar basics episode on which books I use. And this is definitely going to be split up into two different videos because I use a lot of different books. And this is a huge stack of books, and not even everything that I really use, but it is a good representation of what I use. I'm not going to introduce every single book, but I'm going to introduce kind of some of the important ones. But all of these books are sort of there for different reasons. A lot of you guys have been asking me about the books that I use for reference, and so I'll go through them kind of quickly. But basically, what this stack is kind of meant to represent is that, quite honestly, I use every single book. I use all the books. I get my hands on every cocktail book I can find, and I usually buy the new ones. And being in this industry for as long as I have, I usually got the inside scoop on which new books are coming out. I have several friends who've published some books. I'm actually in a book. I actually got a cocktail published this year in a book. But really, I think that it's important to read cocktail books, just not only to just like know what people are doing, but just to see kind of what's relevant. So, you guys are going to be using books for various reasons. Some of you guys are going to be really interested in the history. You'll have certain books for that. Some of you guys are going to be really interested in creating your own cocktails, and there are some really good books for that in this pile. And then some of you guys are going to be really interested in old school cocktails, and that'll be for another video, because that's like a whole video, and I don't want to make a 25-minute video on books, going through every book. But this pile is like a good representation of what I use. So for those of you who are really interested in kind of cocktail culture and history, the very first book that you should be reading is David Wondrich's Imbibe, which kind of focuses on the life and times of Jerry Thomas, but it also gives really good insight into the very beginnings of the history of modern drinking. He's got a companion book called Punch, which is here, okay, which is another history book which tells the origin of punch, which, as you can see, this is a long story. What I really love about this is that Wondrich really did great research into his subject. He pulled a lot of records from the New York Public Library and really dove in deep to find out information that wasn't previously available. Then you have Robert Simonson's book, A Proper Drink, which is basically, I don't have the jacket on it right now, just because I take it off because when I'm in the bar, things get wet, and if I'm reading in a bar or whatever, things get wet, and I don't want it to get ruined. So I take the jacket off. But so A Proper Drink is the history of the modern kind of cocktail renaissance, and he really does a great job. He includes relevant recipes in here. He does a great job kind of going through the cocktail revival and figuring out when it started and how it started. Then I use spirit references a lot as well. So the two that I've been reading a lot on is Amaro and Bitters. Both of these books are from Brad Thomas Parsons. Brad Thomas Parsons is a writer who has committed at least this portion of his career to talking about bitters. And that means Amaro, which is the Italian bitters. These are like potable bitters. And then you've got the book on aromatic bitters, which is like, kind of unfairly non-potable bitters, I guess, would be like they're not supposed to be drank in large quantities, although there are some cocktails that do have Angostura bitters or something as a main spirit. There's only one or two, though, very few. So I think that getting your hands on spirit texts where you're just thinking about a single spirit like rum or bourbon or bitters or Amaro or something, I try and read all of those as well. I don't have a lot of them in this pile. Okay, cool. So then other one that everyone has been, now you'll see that a lot of internet bartenders, a lot of YouTubers that do cocktail channels reference this book quite a bit. It is by Dave Arnold. It is called Liquid Intelligence, and Dave Arnold is basically breaking down the science behind cocktails and how they're created, and then also using scientific technique and modern technology to better cocktails. This is a very important read. I think everyone should go through it. I've had this book for a while, and I page through it constantly, trying to learn stuff. Then we get into the category of like books that are created by very famous bars, and I'll tell you, and bartenders. And I pick the ones for this one for ones that I feel are groundbreaking. The first one that I want to introduce to you is the Dead Rabbit cocktail book. And what I like about this Dead Rabbit drinks manual is that what I think that the Dead Rabbit did so brilliantly is that they basically reconstructed old recipes into very new cocktails. And almost every drink in this book has some homemade bitters, some homemade tincture, some type of homemade syrup, and they really reconstructed these old drinks into something brand new. It's really no secret why they are one of the top bars in the world. And they, if you look on YouTube, you can actually find some videos that they've done themselves, but I think that this is really worth a read. It is very inspiring. It shows you how you can reconstruct older, kind of already existing cocktails into better, newer cocktails for more modern tastes. And I think that's really important. And then on the opposite side of that, we have vintage spirits and vintage cocktails. This is done by Ted Hay, who's Dr. Cocktail. This is a compendium of cocktails that are very old, obscure cocktails that previously not many people knew about, and he really dug them up, the really good ones, to create this book. So I think that this is, for people who are really into old school drinks, something that you should be using. Then, of course, everything from Jeff Beachbum Berry. This one's Potions of the Caribbean, which I really like because it goes through a lot of old school kind of precursor to tiki drinks. But he is the absolute authority on tiki cocktails and tiki culture, so you should really get all of his books. But Potions of the Caribbean is one of my favorites. This book is called Clean and Dirty Drinking. It's by a good friend of mine named Gabby. I can't pronounce her last name. It's like Miller. You know what? Actually, I'll have Marius put it up right next to me, and you can figure out how that is pronounced, and then maybe you guys can comment about it. Or maybe Gabby will comment about it. I don't know if she watches my videos. But what I love about what Gabby does is that Gabby really worked with a lot of chefs, and she uses a lot of techniques that chefs use in the kitchen to create cocktails. She uses very surprising ingredients. This book is amazing, and all of you guys should get it because it really shows you what is possible. I met Gabby when I went to go work with her at a bar called Birch that she was the program director of, and I went there specifically because I got wise to her cocktails and I really wanted to work and learn from her, and I learned so much from her about what is possible in the making of cocktails. You know, there really are no constraints, and she showed me that. I also wanted to bring to your attention the Death & Company book. So Death & Company is a bar that was created by Alex Day and Dave Kaplan in New York City. They also have their own consulting firm called, I was gonna say Polite Provisions, but that's not true. It's called Proprietors LLC. This book is the collected, this book is awesome because not only does it go through a lot of recipes for syrups and shaking technique and like all sorts of technique stuff, it really is very comprehensive when it comes to how they do their drinks. And it has all of their recipes from all of their bartenders throughout the years and what made them famous. All right, I'm gonna try and wrap this up because this is getting kind of long. And then for creating cocktails, there's two books. One of them, the GM of my bar, Cole's, got me wise to, called The Flavor Matrix. And basically, this is all about flavor pairings. What pairs with what? Everything comes out in sort of like this circle chart that looks like this. And you basically see the root flavor that you're trying to pair, and then all of the pairings, you know, that they get as they get stronger and weaker, and kind of where they fall on a sweet and savory spectrum. So when I'm looking for new ideas, I'm usually paging through this, and then its brother is the Flavor Bible, which is also another flavor pairings book. This is also pretty comprehensive, and this just goes through lists like an encyclopedia. You pick out a flavor that you're working on, you look it up, and then you see all of the pairings underneath it with a lot of extra information. And then last but not least, I have been doing a series on nightcaps. So this book by spirits writer Cara Newman, who is the wine enthusiast spirits writer, wrote this book. It's all about nightcaps, so it's a lot of Amaros and bitters, and they're really having a moment in the industry right now. So this is a really relevant book, and I think you should pick it up. So those are all the contemporary, those are the major contemporary books that I'm using right now, and the reasons why I'm using them. But at the same time, I also just wanted to let you guys know that honestly, you guys should be searching out any subject within, any sub-subject within cocktails that you're interested in, whether it's like modern tiki or whether it's like old school cocktails. You really should be picking up every book you're interested in and then just consuming them if you're interested in creating better drinks. Anyway, I'll see you next time, and thanks for listening to my very long rant.